Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, council members, staff. Welcome to the August Town Council meeting. We're glad you're here to participate either through Zoom or watching us on TV6 or participating on Facebook. Whatever the case, we're glad you can be part of your town business this evening. We'll begin tonight with our invocation by our town attorney, Bo Hauff. Bo?
Let's pray. God our Father, we give you thanks for this day. We thank you for the demonstration of your power through the thunder and the lightning. And we give thanks for all that you provide us with. We give you especially thanks tonight for this town. We thank you for its citizens. We thank you for the town staff that does the workings of the town every day, even in challenging circumstances. And we give you thanks for our town council. We ask you to give that council wisdom, courage, and appropriateness in its actions this evening. And we ask all these things in your name. Amen.
Thank you, Bo. Speaking of thunder and lightning, should we have an interruption tonight in our meeting for technical reasons, what's our procedure?
If we lose, first of all, if we lose the whole shooting match, we will just I think since we already have a meeting set up for Monday, we should probably we would automatically continue matters on to the Monday meeting, even though that's set up now to consider results of a public hearing if we get to that point. So if we lose individual members by virtue of thunder and lightning on only individuals and we still have a quorum, we will be able to continue with the business, and we will hope that those individual council members will be able to get back with us. And I think that should take care of where we are. We did have a situation last week, but it looks like that's going to be resolved this week because our planner is here at Town Hall. So if we lose Town Hall, we're going to lose a lot. I think
very good. So recap, ladies and gentlemen, if we completely lose power or any reason to continue this meeting as a group, we will reconvene on Monday at 6 o'clock. Should we lose an individual council member, an individual staff member tonight, we will pause and wait, and hopefully they can rejoin us. At any time, Bo, we have to maintain a quorum, do we not?
We do, and if we lose a quorum by virtue of electronic difficulties, then that will stop the meeting right there, and no different than if we lost entire power. If we lose a quorum, the meeting must cease. We don't. Never mind. We will talk about how that compares to other situations. But if we lose power and lose a quorum, then the meeting stops.
You just define what a quorum is for the public.
I was just going to say, Ms. Foster, ladies and gentlemen, for you, your dancing and dining pleasure at home, a quorum is 4 of us must be here. And so you can count the council members, and if there are 4 faces, we will continue with the meeting. If we are only down to 3, then we obviously will go into a contingency plan. That will do the roll call for this evening. Mr. Smitherman?
Here.
Ms. Foster?
Evening. Thanks for joining.
Ms. Welch?
Present.
Ms. Hunt?
Happy Thursday.
Mr. Franklin?
Present.
Dr. Sadler?
Present.
Mayor is also present. Thank you very much. Council members, we've had a couple of things that have come up since we sent out the agenda. What I'd like to do is ask Stacy real quick to give us an update, because I think we'll have some items that we need to consider based upon some recent developments.
Thank you, Mayor. This week I had a meeting with one of our council members to discuss some different things, one being the project that is before us tonight, the Solomon development. And in that we found that at first we thought that whenever you look at building height, you looked at mainly the front facade because there's a lot of other things in the ordinance that when you are looking at a building, front facade is what you look at. That's normally what regulations adhere to. What has to adhere to regulations is the front facade. However, in our ordinance under height building, the actual definition, the way to formulate that is in the definitions ordinance. I'm not sure why it's in the definitions ordinance, but that's where it's been found. And so in doing that, whenever you calculate building height, you have to take the midpoint of at grade to the top of the building of all four sides. And so in the development that is before you tonight, the initial building height averaged 51 feet. It did not average 48 feet. I did talk to the developer about this, and they were able to make some accommodations and do some changes to the elevations. The site plan itself did not change, but elevations are part of a site plan in downtown because they are required to be submitted for a project that takes place downtown, unlike it would have if it was outside of downtown. So elevations have to be approved along with site plans when a development is taking place downtown. So the changes were made in order for the average to now meet 48 foot. So Mayor, if nobody has any questions for me kind of about how we've come about that, the definition that we found and the change that was made to the elevations of the building, I'll turn that over to you as far as protocol for tonight.
Very good. Thank you, Stacy. Council members and ladies and gentlemen at home, we've not seen any of these modifications since they were submitted this morning. I believe our planner has had a chance to look at them, but we haven't. Bo, help us through this real quickly. I think we have some options that we could consider.
We do. The first would be to proceed to take a look at the revised elevations tonight for the first time, and then to proceed with the hearing, having looked at that and having had those explained by the planner and perhaps by the developer. That's the first one. The second would be to continue the public hearing this evening to a later date in order to allow council members to have a closer look at all of the new revised elevations.
Bo, and that would we'd also make those available to the public so they would also see.
Certainly, those are a public record, and of course, just as council has not yet seen them, very few, if any, of members of the public have had a chance to see them either, and to give their to make an assessment as to their view about the development based upon those new site plans. That's well observed. And finally, another alternative would be because Planning Board has also not seen these new elevations. And again, I haven't seen them either, so I don't know what they consist of. This could be sent back to the Planning Board to look at those elevations and to give a revised recommendation for either approval with conditions, or denial with reasons stated. So those are, as I see it, the three options that council has tonight.
Thank you, Bo. Council members, what are your thoughts?
Question, please.
Yes, ma'am.
Stacy has looked at the new site plan. And Stacy, I wanted to ask, did you see any other change other than changing the height?
No, ma'am, there were no other changes. The change that was made is, and I can do a screenshot if I need to, but or share the screen if I need to. But the change that was made was the roof of the building. It's no longer like a shingled roof. It's a parapet wall with, what are those things called? What did I say? I'm sorry, Bo.
Colonnade.
Colonnades, thank you. I want to say, well, colonnades, which brought the building height on three sides down to 45 feet. And then
let me stop you for a second.
yes.
Hank, we're having a number of people participating in chat,
Okay.
and I think probably that's not appropriate for that communication to be going on.
Well, it's certainly not going to be something that the town council is going to consider. I'm not sure about stopping chat.
We can't force them to stop chatting, but this is not something that council can participate in because this is not preserved as a public record. So council cannot, I'll just let the public know, and the mayor was going to do this, I believe, that council cannot respond to any statements that are made in the chat room.
Well, I might take it a step further, Bo. Is it not doubting the veracity or competence of anybody making chat, but if all the participants can see these chat messages, they may contain erroneous or incomplete or maybe not factual information. So let me just ask, if you would please, those of you who are waiting by to participate. If you would just abstain from chatting, you'll have ample opportunity when we have the public hearing to share your thoughts with everybody at the same time. I ask that as a courtesy. Of course, you can feel free to do whatever you want. You're the public, and we don't have a way not to allow you to do that. But as a courtesy to the council, and a courtesy to other participants, I'd ask that you refrain from chatting. Thank you.
Mayor, I can turn that off.
Mayor Horn, may I continue?
Yes, ma'am. I'm sorry, Ms. Welch. I wanted to be sure that we took care of that.
Before you do, Hank,
Yes.
Melissa, I think got kicked out, but she is waiting in the.
Oh, okay. I didn't see her get kicked out. It looked like somebody disappeared.
Yeah,
Here she
Okay.
comes.
there we go.
All right. Stacy, you said you actually could put on the screen the depiction of the new site plan change. Can you do that?
I can. Mayor, is that appropriate?
Are we doing anything with this right now?
Yeah, I was thinking, Ms. Welch, it probably, if we choose to move forward with the public hearing, I think that probably is best presented at that time during Stacy's presentation to staff. I think maybe the principles that are before us are what probably we should be discussing rather than the specific changes that might have been submitted.
Certainly.
But would you agree with that?
Is that to me?
Yeah, would you agree with that?
I would, and one of the concerns that we have is, and not to say anything disparaging about this particular developer, because I'm not intending to do that, but we've had some situations where site plans or elevations have been submitted on the eve of a hearing, and we've missed things. And I'm not to suggest that anything might be missing, that we might miss anything here, but council will not have had an opportunity to really review this at this point. So, we've made a change in at least in our rezoning consideration that a site plan modification needs to be made more than 24 hours before a hearing. And we didn't quite get that this time.
Thank you, Ms. Welch, for bringing that up, because I think that's an important point that we discussed.
So, Mayor,
Yes, ma'am, Ms. Foster.
so for the public, some of the public might have an agenda in front of them, but some may not. So right now, all we're doing is we haven't adopted the agenda. Right now, our agenda shows that we have a public hearing. We have a public hearing further down on the agenda. What we're trying to decide is if we're going to do one of those three options: have the public hearing, continue this subject to another meeting, or suggest this goes to planning board. Is that?
That's correct. And the reason we're doing it here before we adopt the agenda is I know there are a number of people who have a great deal of interest in this and are probably waiting to talk. And since that public hearing is a considerable way through our agenda, there's no sense in having folks stick around if that's the only reason. Now, we would love to have you stay for our whole meeting. Don't get me wrong, but this way you would know that we wouldn't have the public hearing tonight and it would be considered another night.
Thank you.
Clause counsel?
I'll chime in just a moment.
Yes, sir.
I think that we, as Bo described, option 3, if you will, I think we need to kick this all the way back down to the planning board, because the roof has dramatically changed if they're going to get it down 3 foot from some kind of wall, parapet, whatever, to a sloped roof to whatever. So there may be other standards that are not met as we go forward, but it needs to be reviewed at the planning board level before it gets back to council. So that's where I'll come down from. The petitioner has obviously withdrawn, if you will, his original request, because he submitted within the last 24 hours a revised request when he learned that his proposed project didn't meet the criteria of our codes and so forth. So I think it needs to start back over again at the planning board level, and I'll wait to hear what others have to say.
Council members, we will, I think by remanding this, if we choose to remand this back to planning board, we'll have to have a motion and a second and a vote. Thoughts? Mr. Smitherman?
If there's no thoughts, I would make the motion to return it back to the planning board.
And I'll second that.
Very good. Mr. Smitherman makes the motion. Mr. Franklin makes the second to send this back for further review by the planning board. Any discussion by council members?
what, are we clear, or just, I want to make sure planning board is clear on what they're actually going to be doing. What,
Yeah, I believe our direction to them is to consider the site plan again with these modifications that have been made by the developer.
Yeah, and does it meet the code? You know, I mean, under what we have found and what they're resubmitting and this, that, and other, and then we'll have to consider it then. That's all I'm getting at. Let them do the work for us. I wasn't on the planning board, so that's the reason I'm glad we have a planning board.
Council members, any other discussion?
I would just say a couple of things. Having been on the planning board, yes, I think it's appropriate for it to go back to planning board. And two other items, Dr. Sadler last time mentioned some of the planning board discussion. I think it would be incumbent for us to understand what their reasoning is or is not for making their determinations going forward.
Thank you. Council members?
Hey, Mike, this is Melissa.
Yes,
I
ma'am.
dropped off due to some connection issues. Can, Bo, will there be a public hearing then as a result of us choosing number 3?
Not tonight.
Not tonight. Okay, thank you.
But what
And
about planning
there
board?
wouldn't be a public hearing at planning board either, right?
It would be a review for compliance. However, in keeping with kind of the policy and tradition, the public will be allowed to participate as they have in situations such as subdivision site plan review and related ones that are not, although not technically public hearings, as Jean Marie knows, they are still allowed. We typically allow voices to be heard.
Very good. Thank you for the clarification. Council members, any further discussion?
Is there a specific time the planning board would be meeting, or would we ask them to meet sooner than later?
Thank you, Ms. Welch, for that clarification. Mr. Franklin, if you would accept an addition to your motion that this should be reviewed at the planning board's
Our next
be
meeting is
briefed, their next
August
meeting, which will be
26th.
August 26th,
Mhm.
and then they would consider it.
September 9th would be the
September
next
9th,
available
thank you.
meeting after that.
So they would have a rebriefing of what changes were made, and then they would in turn take a vote to approve or deny on September 9th.
I will say that I heard you and Stacy both at the right time, and yes, I will agree to that.
Okay, very good. Mr.
The way
Smitherman, will
we're doing meetings right now.
Mr. Smitherman, will you accept that to your second?
I will.
Thank you.
Further.
Council members, any additional discussion? With that, we'll call the question. Mr. Smitherman,
I approve.
Ms. Foster,
Aye.
Ms. Welch,
Aye.
Dr. Sadler,
Aye.
Mr. Franklin,
Aye.
Ms. Hunt,
Aye.
Mayor's aye also. So ladies and gentlemen, what that means is that this evening we will not have the public hearing on this particular issue, that it will be remanded back to planning board for their consideration on August 26th with a revote and recommendation on September 9th. We will consider it on our September 10th regular council meeting. So we're all clear on that. I hope we don't have a lot of drop off. I hope you folks all stay with us for a while. Stacy?
I was going to say, if I will, Mayor, new letters will be sent out because of the contentiousness of this to remind people and give the information out to for them to connect to those planning board meetings as well as those town council meetings, the Zoom information, web IDs, and all that sort of thing.
Great, and we'll put the revised drawings up on the website.
We can, yes.
Yeah, that would be helpful as well. Okay, very good.
Mayor,
With that change on the agenda, Ms. Walker, have there been anything else since our agenda went out?
You're muted. Yep.
Sorry, not that I've received, no.
Very good. With that, council members, then we will remove the public hearing, which is 11F, consideration of L096 special use district permit, or actually a site plan review, until our September 10th meeting. Thank
Mayor,
you, everybody.
Monday night, is there a reason we still need to keep that?
Thank you, Hank. No, I don't believe there is, since the purpose of Monday night's meeting was to vote on what we took out of the public hearing. So we will then also cancel our Monday meeting unless there's another reason to keep it.
What, can I jump in?
Yeah.
Until we get to the end of this meeting, let's don't cancel that meeting for Monday night.
Oh, so we might have the electrical issues.
That's right.
Got it. That's
Well,
a good
there
point.
you go, Mr.
Okay.
Franklin. You're thinking ahead of all of us. Thank you very
Well,
much.
I'm a safety professional by trade, man. Been doing this stuff for a number of years.
I've always said you were outstanding in your field.
Well, thank you.
Hey, hey, Mike,
Ms. Hunt, yes, ma'am.
from a calendarization standpoint, if we're going to be hearing that on the 10th, are we going to then need to reconvene or get back together that Monday after that? Or when will we know our calendar changes?
Yeah, I would suspect we do the same sequence that we did now, that we would meet on Thursday, the 10th, and come back for our meeting that we would vote on Monday, the 14th. Is that correct?
That is.
Okay, Monday, the 14th. Thank you,
And-
Ms. Hunt, for talking about it. Ms. Foster.
And the third, when we have our briefing, we could be briefed as Stacy did last time with where our planning board is.
Exactly.
Any questions or additional clarification they might need.
Excellent.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, everybody good? With that, we'll entertain a
We'll
motion.
approve the agenda.
Okay, Mr. Franklin makes the motion to approve the
Second.
agenda. Ms. Foster makes the second. Any further discussion? Mr. Smitherman,
Approve.
Ms. Foster,
Aye.
Ms. Welch,
Aye.
Dr. Sadler,
Aye.
Mr. Franklin,
Aye.
Ms. Hunt.
Aye.
Mayor is aye. That's our agenda for this evening. Thank you, everybody. Hank, you want to walk us through our consent agenda, please?
Yes, the consent agenda consists of, I guess, 2 items. First is Resolution 2020057 for the acceptance and approval of the preliminary monthly financials for the 12 months ending June 30th, 2020. And lastly, the approval of council debt issuance meeting approval minutes, July 23rd, 2020.
Ladies and gentlemen, I apologize. I neglected to introduce our staff to you. Many of you are viewing for the first time. And let me do that now. The gentleman who was just speaking was our town manager, Hank Perkins. We have our finance director, Pam Orell. We have our town attorney, Bo Houth, who gave the invocation. We have our planner, Stacy Tolbert. We have our town clerk, Ms. Joyce Walker. We also have joining us Corporal PJ Stringer, who has a part in our agenda coming up here. And I believe that's all the staff that's in attendance tonight. My apologies, staff, for not introducing you earlier. Pam, I believe you have a little caveat for our financial report.
The financial statements in your packet are for the fiscal year ended June 30th, 2020. I'm still collecting revenues and paying bills, so the numbers are still preliminary. But it looks like even with the effects of COVID-19, I'm still anticipating a very strong finish and good growth in our fund balance. When the stay-at-home orders began, we weren't really sure what that was going to mean for our sales tax revenue, but all the numbers are in now, so I'd like to just report back to you on that. I've collected sales tax revenue for all 12 months in the fiscal year, and the collections for the last 3 months, April, May, and June, were down 7%, but our collections for the first 9 months were so strong that they made up for it. So we actually realized a 2% growth in our sales tax revenue for the year. So I'm very pleased to let you know that. And also, I'll also note that our ABC board revenue is up 12% this year as well.
So, ladies and gentlemen, thank you out there for buying bottles of whatever you buy bottles of.
If we lost Melissa again, I'm sure she's going to read.
Yeah, I'm looking for her. I do not see her as an attendee.
Okay,
She says she's there, but I cannot find her.
we'll give her a chance to come on here. I believe we'll go ahead and.
Oh, I see her
continue.
now. Okay, I missed her. Got it.
Okay, there we are. Very good. Ladies and gentlemen, the consent agenda are items that routinely come before the council. We generally take them as a group for expediency's sake. However, if any council member wishes to withdraw any item from the consent agenda for individual discussion, they are certainly entitled to do that. If there are no objections from council members, we'll entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda. Mr. Smitherman makes the motion.
Second.
Ms. Welch makes the second. Thank you. Any discussion? Mr. Smitherman,
Aye.
Ms. Foster,
Aye.
Ms. Welch,
Aye.
Dr. Sadler,
Aye.
Mr. Franklin,
Aye.
Ms. Hunt,
Aye.
Mayor is aye also. That is unanimous. Thank you. Corporal Stringer,
Sergeant.
Sergeant Stringer, I demoted you. Oh my gosh.
Lieutenant.
Okay.
Hey, good evening.
Good evening. You have an introduction for us this evening.
I do. We lost Deputy Lang to, he went on and transferred to a different division. So we have actually gained Deputy Ethan Goins, a wealth of knowledge. And we intended to introduce him back in July. However, we had a little incident involving a squirrel, which we won't talk about. But
you were already talking about it.
Yes, I couldn't resist. So, but Deputy Goins has been with the sheriff's office about 4.5 years, and he's from Mount Airy. Not married, no kids, but he's been a wrestling coach, and I've seen him in action when the squirrel. So he's very good at what he does. So I'd like to formally introduce Deputy Goins to each and every one of you. So he's been with us for a little over a month now. So with that being said, I think Deputy Goins has actually joined us.
Very good. It looks like you're on patrol, Deputy Goins.
Yeah, and I'm enjoying the video from my car right now. So how are y'all?
Well, very good. As always, we welcome your addition to our community policing. Mr. Franklin, do you have something to say?
Yeah, I just always want to ask, how are you with cows?
How am I with cows?
Yeah,
Well, I live on a farm, so I'm pretty good with cows and livestock.
that sounds good. Glad to know that. Thank you.
Very good. We know that you'll be a great addition to our community policing. Louisville is an incredibly special place, and our community policing officers are a big part of that. I do understand that you have a car, and they're going to paint Rocky on the side of the car, so that will be your nickname as we move forward. But
Okay. That might be a little frowned upon from the sheriff's office, but I'm okay with being called Rocky.
I wasn't going to bring it up until Sergeant Stringer did, and so I figured we'd better.
As long as you don't call me Bullwinkle, we won't have any problems.
Deputy Goins, welcome. We're glad to have you.
Thank you.
Ms. Welch, you've been asking for some time to integrate into our meetings a report on our public safety, and we've been working on that for a couple of months. And I believe Sergeant Stringer has it in the format that will be meaningful for us to hear. And so, Sergeant Stringer, you're up.
So, Hank, if you would, could you pull up that spreadsheet that the mayor and myself and Hank have worked on? We didn't make a lot of changes to it, but we tried to make it a little simplified instead of compiling a bunch of data. So, if you look on the spreadsheet, the top, starting in July, you'll see the total calls for service. I believe it's.
Hank, can you scroll down a little bit so we can see the months?
There we go.
Thank you.
Okay, so what? Yep, so I can see that. Can everybody see that?
Yes.
Okay, so if you look at May, 528 calls for service, in June, 748. And July, 666. I started to fabricate that number just to get rid of that 666. But if you look at, we took the four main things that what we felt was probably the most crucial to pass on to the citizens of Louisville. Our security checks, traffic arrest and violations, total alarms, and then our priority response times. Priority response times, that is blue lights and sirens. And that average actually comes from community policing officers, whether they happen to be the first one there or one of the responding patrol units if a deputy from Louisville is at the jail or happens to be on vacation or whatever the case may be. Hank, can you pull up the actual calls for service?
Yes.
The calls for service detail report.
All right. I need to probably quit sharing this though.
Okay.
And then
the calls for service detail report, it really doesn't matter how the call is actually dispatched when it comes into our communication. The big point that what we're after is looking for is what is the actual call? What kind of call was it? So with that being said, I'll give you an example. If somebody's out of town for vacation and we get dispatched to a house breaking in progress, and the deputy gets there and finds out that it's a neighbor or family member that's taken in the mail, and they just happen to set the alarm off, or a neighbor doesn't realize that they're on vacation, then the deputy will more than likely change that to what we would call a police service or a security check. So there's no reason that should be reported as a house break-in, because that just drives the numbers up. If you look, you'll see like the top where Hank's got it, it says 1050. That's just simply stands for a property damage. That's a crash. All these reports, this is where that total calls for service number actually comes in. And it's broken down by if a community policing unit answers it, or a other unit, which would be a patrol deputy. And then it's broken down by percentage. These are actual crimes that how it's actually reported once the deputy finishes his investigation. I know that there was some question about maybe reporting on felonies and stuff like that, but if you get into trying to report felonies, when Kim, our crime analysis, runs the stats, when she runs a felony report, let me give you this scenario. Let's say a person is wanted for a warrant out of another county and happens to be stopped in Louisville. Well, if you run it and talk about total felony arrest, that would show up as a felony arrest out of Louisville. And it's not really accurate reporting, because it has nothing associated within the town limits. They just happen to be apprehended there. Does anybody have any questions so far?
I have some questions, please, Sergeant Stringer.
Yes, ma'am.
First of all, thank you so much for coming before council, and I know it's a lot of information for you to go through, and it's a lot of information to digest. I want to see if council sort of agrees with my feelings of what we're looking for, and I'm going to give you a list of some items that I think will be of interest to the public, instead of trying to see these charts and all. So if you would bear with me, I'm just going to list a few things, and then I really appreciate council comments as well. And so I was thinking of, if you could tell us every month, how many driveway break-ins, how many drunk driver arrests, how many speeding, do you have community policing plans? What were the total number of arrests without, detailing them? Do you have safety suggestions? Do you have more domestic disturbances than normally? What about the seatbelt rates? And those are the type of, that type of information is what I'm really after, that the individuals in the public can really, I think, put a finger on and say, oh yeah, we're having a lot more break-ins on our driveways, or things are looking good, but we don't have to look at these charts and try to decipher it. Does that make sense?
Yes, ma'am, absolutely. If you look at the calls for service report that you're actually looking at now, each individual crime, those are actually broken down, and you can look, and there's actually one down there for domestic disturbances. And you can see we had a total of 6 for the month of July when it says domestic disturbance. That was 3 actually answered by community policing, and then 3 that were actually answered by a deputy not assigned to the community policing. And then you have, and then also you have your driving while impaired, your DWI arrest. There was one that it looks like it was arrested by somebody other than a community policing. So the graphs that Kim actually sends out, Ms. Higgins sends out from our agency, they are more or less to show the spike and the times and the days of the week for statistical stuff. But the calls for service report that you're looking at now, that really breaks down what kind of calls that we're actually having in the town of Louisville. If council would like for me to kind of break those down each month, I have no problem doing that. That's what we're after, is to try to make it as simple as possible, so that everybody's informed of what kind of crimes that are actually occurring. I've actually talked to the mayor and to Mr. Perkins about maybe doing some ideas, reminders each week to maybe run across the local channel about locking car doors or slowing down during school hours. Just some safety tips like you had mentioned.
Absolutely. I think that's what I'm after, sort of deferring to you to summarize as you are a citizen and saying, hey folks, it looks like you really need to be locking your cars more in your driveway, or we are seeing an increase in domestic disturbance, maybe because of the stress of COVID. But for you to, give us your feedback in a summary.
That would be no problem. That's a great idea. So I don't think there would be any problem in that. But we just really need to decide, nail down what kind of crimes that you're actually after. And we'll take note of any car break-ins. For instance, in late June, we had the 23 car break-ins. So you're going to see a spike in stuff like that. So you'll notice that house break-ins are typically, they're down because everybody's isolated with COVID, and most of our house break-ins occur during the day. Well, as people start to go back to work and go back to school and try to change into a more normal type atmosphere, it's not uncommon to see stuff like that have a spike or an increase.
Okay. I have one other question, if I'm correct in understanding this, and then would like other council comments and concerns. I think that the department is getting $140,000 because of Corona. Is that correct? And Mayor, am I right on that?
Actually, I'll let Pam address that. That money is coming to us to be used for COVID-related expenses.
For some reason, I thought it was going for our public safety.
That may be how we apply it. And I think what we have to do is we have to justify the allocation. Actually, Jane, comes from a federal allocation that went to a state allocation that went to a county allocation. But this time, as opposed to the first time COVID relief funds came through, municipalities have been mandated to receive 25%. And so in Forsyth County, that has been broken out per capita. So our per capita share, I think, Pam, correct me if I'm wrong, is $147,000.
Yeah.
It's up to us to come back and justify how we use that, but how we use that all has to be related somehow to what we've done in relation to COVID.
Mayor, we do have an interlocular memorandum of understanding this evening for council to approve, and we will be covering all the details in that.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. So we're not required then to use it specifically in any one area, just so it's COVID related.
COVID related, I believe, is how the agreement's going to work.
We've got the plan explicitly spelled out in the agreement that we'll cover and have council approve. So it is specific in nature as to how the funds can be applied.
And Jane,
Okay.
we may actually use that for law enforcement, but they'll go into a lot more detail with it coming up here shortly.
Okay, great. Well, thank you again, Sergeant Stringer, and certainly wanted to welcome Deputy Goins as well. Really pleased to have you. And those are all my comments.
Great.
Okay.
Thank you, Jane. Council members, any thoughts?
I'd just like to say that the report that PJ has put together along with Hank and whomever that is currently on the screen is the report that I think would be adequate for us as we go forward on whatever basis, monthly or whatever. It identifies what our community policing program that we're specifically paying for responds to, and the sector deputies, and obviously gives us a total. And it breaks it down into various different types of calls. And, if you can't interpret this, this is about as good as it gets right here, this particular report.
I think if I take each month and break it down on the spreadsheet and include this to whoever would like it, I mean, that's no problem. And if we see any issues that we need to address, then we'll certainly keep the public informed. I think you can always remind, folks about speed limits and kids out playing when we go from winter, or whether they're calling for bad weather or trees down. We can put something together to keep the council as well as the citizens informed.
Very good. Anything else for PJ this evening?
Jean Marie has something.
Hank, can you take us back to full screen?
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Yep. Okay.
Ms. Foster.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Sergeant Stringer. Yes, I appreciate all your efforts.
Yes, ma'am.
Couple of things. I agree with what Fred is saying in general, but I'd like to have an opportunity to have sort of the hard copies myself and review them before I indicate, if there's anything else perhaps that I'd like. So that's number one. Number two is, could you just please address how your process and the safety tips that you're thinking about providing to council, how that ties with the Public Safety Advisory Committee? Because I know you serve on that.
I think what we take in consideration is with the committee, if they have anything that they feel that like to address. Typically, what we're dealing with is most of the time it's speed complaints, various neighborhoods. I think if we take that in consideration and try to constantly remind folks about the speed, we're utilizing the trailer, the speed trailer. I know David Matthews and Ryan have been great about moving that to various locations, and we get a lot of feedback from folks for that.
Okay.
Is that kind of what you're after? Or?
So I just want to make sure there's integration between material that's coming to council and how that goes to this Public Safety Committee, their role, who would be making determinations on making recommendations.
Let me give you the full report from the Forsyth County Sheriff's Office goes to all members of the Public Safety Committee every month. And then PJ and then members of the fire departments will attend as well to be able to answer questions pertaining to what they receive.
Great. Okay. Thank you. That answers it.
Okay.
Okay.
Mr. Moser, all of a sudden you popped up in my window and I didn't see you there before. This is our acting Public Works Director, soon to have a major announcement momentarily about a new title for him. So Ryan, I'm sorry I missed you before.
Hey, Mayor, can I
Yes,
comment, Sergeant? Just so a couple of things that I had in mind regarding, I think for us to see the document that you provided this evening, Sergeant, at briefing, if we would have opportunity to view that during briefing, more of the graphs and the numbers and all the statistical information, and then just a quick narrative on the agenda during town council meetings from a procedural standpoint, I think that would be where my comfort level is to see all the data, the nitty gritty, during briefing, like we get briefed on most of the information that we see. And then during the town council meetings, we would just have a summary or narrative of that information. I think that for me would be appropriate.
Okay. When I get that, is that something that, Hank, is that something that you would need to forward on to the council members?
I was just thinking about the timing of it, PJ, because we just looked at July's numbers, and it may be tricky, Melissa, in being able to get that and have time for PJ to cull it into that report by briefing.
Sure.
Because I'm not sure what the lag time is from the sheriff's office once they get the end of the month taken care of and then transmit the reports to us.
That makes sense.
Yep.
Well, we're kind of at the mercy of the crime analysis, Ms. Higgins. I think they typically give up to a week for all the reports and the data to clear before she actually runs her reports and puts it together and gets it sent out. Like what you're seeing now was just put together over the last few days because we have to wait on her to give the data, and then I can actually break it down.
That makes sense. So it's going to be in our packet somewhere though, right? Is that correct? I mean, Joyce, we'll have this access to somewhere.
We can if we get it in time to be able to, when we're putting the packets together.
Great.
Certainly.
Thank you.
Or sometimes if we get it and the packet is already gone out, say for briefing, we'll send it to you individually and then put it in the packet for the regular meeting.
Thank you.
Franklin, I think you had a comment.
Yeah, I was just going to say, I deal with leading indicators and lagging indicators all the time in my field. And our July briefing was July 2nd. There's absolutely no way this kind of data can be compiled that's meaningful at that time. So long as this report comes out during a month after the preceding month, I think that's fine.
And
Okay.
I think typically the middle of the month would actually be the latest, depending on how it falls.
Ms. Foster?
That's what I'm getting at.
so again, so for me, I'd like a little bit of time to review the material, because where I'm coming from is the numbers are helpful, but I'm interested in the trending as you referenced, and also if there are any benchmarks, similar kinds of towns, what should be the numbers we're expecting? Are we higher or lower than what's reasonable? So that would be more helpful for me.
And all that's going to fluctuate.
Yep.
I'll give you an example, because in Louisville, you don't have the traffic that you do in Clemens at certain times. So I think as long as you focus on the trends within your own town, not worry so much about what's happening, because everybody's statistics and geographics are different within reason. So as long as we can keep it, we know we're having a spike in our own area, then that throws up a bunch of red flags.
Right, that's what I'm talking about. Benchmarks that we would know.
Sure.
The spike. So I would get my feedback to what you, Hank, about anything else from this report that I might make some suggestions.
Certainly.
Look at it. When would you want that, given the timing of what you guys?
You mean this evening? I mean this evening's material?
Yes.
Just as soon as you get it back, then we'll be able to use that. I guess your idea is to shape how we move forward with the reports in the future.
Yeah, if I just have any input, I would provide it to you by when?
I'm not sure it's time sensitive, but I wouldn't wait too long on it. Okay.
And let's keep in mind too that the information we're requesting, Sergeant Stringer is kind of at the mercy of how the data is collected and distributed by the folks downtown. So PJ, I'm sure you will give us as much as you possibly can within the boundaries and the constraints that you might be faced with.
Absolutely. You know, there's, like you said it exactly right. It's how it's reported. The sheriff's office last July switched over to a FBI reporting. So that changed some of the way that it's actually reported than the way we had to do it, that we had been doing it in the past. So if you request a certain amount of information, I will do whatever I can to try to get that information to you, whatever statistics that you're actually after.
Thank you.
Very good. Thank you, PJ. Appreciate it. Anything else for Sergeant Stringer? Dr. Sadler, you look like you had a hand moving. You're muted.
What I was going to say is, I guess, you know, any of the things that are reported are things that are concerning in nature. The question I have is, when do you make decisions about how you, most of this is related to manpower, I guess, in terms of, or is it in terms of responding to increased activity in any of these areas? Is that an accurate statement? I mean, when you're trying to determine how you're going to staff in an area, is it based on the level of activity in any particular area or across the board, or how's that done?
It seems like it's ever changing. So we try to, each day we see the areas that we need to address. So we do address it according to manpower, depending on what the complaint or what the issue is. What you've got to understand is even though that we may be lagging in personnel, if somebody's off, we still have those surrounding zone cars that we still have a lot of resources within the sheriff's office. Sheriff Kimbrough started the apprehension team, so that puts 4 other guys. We can pull from those resources need be. So just because somebody's not assigned within the town of Louisville doesn't mean we're not going to be able to utilize that resource. So it's forever changing.
Neighborhood watch. Are there still neighborhood watch programs around?
Some, but I think they're less organized than what they had been in the past. but when we get a chance to talk to some homeowners association, we always encourage that to try to start up.
Okay. And in Louisville, I know you just said that they're less than the past, but in Louisville, in areas where you see increased activity, like Councilperson Welch was asking about, break-ins in driveways, or whenever the weather changes or people are back at work and there are more break-ins in homes, Neighborhood Watch tend to have an effect in terms of reducing that kind of activity?
Oh, absolutely. We tell people all the time that your neighbors are your best lookouts. You know, we can't be in every neighborhood at the same time. You know, at night when late at night, that's the ideal time to ride through the neighborhoods. We want people to see us, but we want people to be on the lookout for their neighbors, and we encourage them. If it doesn't seem right, please call us and let us come check it out. It may turn out to be nothing, but I think as we address that and encourage people to call, I think you see more people getting involved and trying to report suspicious activity.
Okay. So I don't mean to belabor this, but is there an organized effort then to get to the HOAs to make sure that they are aware of this methodology or mechanism for reducing crime, such that they might get more interested? I mean, years and years ago, I know that, you know, there was more awareness of this sort of thing.
There's not at the present time, but that would be something that we could look into to kind of to get that word out and try to get the HOAs to come together and put something together with assistance. When we do that, what we try to do is kind of facilitate the meeting and let them create their own, whatever works different in different neighborhoods, and we just kind of spread those ideas, and we're there for the feedback.
Thank you.
Anything else for Sergeant Stringer? Thank you, PJ. Appreciate all you're doing for us.
Yes, sir. Y'all have a good night.
Welcome again, Deputy
Thank you.
Goins. Ladies and gentlemen, occasionally we have an opportunity to recognize an individual in Louisville who we feel has done an amazing job, an outstanding job, or as the teenagers would say, an awesome job in being volunteer support or in efforts to better our community. This evening, I'm going to turn to Councilmember Welch, who has a nomination for our I'm One of the Reasons Louisville is a Great Place to Live award.
Thank you, Mayor Horn. Yes, it's with great pleasure that we can recognize someone tonight who has been outstanding as a community volunteer. I hope this person is listening and watching. And this individual has been very involved in the beautification committee as a chair and also as a vice chair. She has also been the co-chair of the Nissen House Restoration and has worked endless hours with the gardening of the Nissen House, which has now been named the Mary Alice Warren Garden. So at this time, I hope, Mary Alice, you can stand up, be recognized, and we would like to commend you for your example and to thank you.
Jane, are you, are you thinking Susan Linker?
Yes, Susan Linker. Oh, I just thought this has to be obvious. Thank you, Mayor Horn. Yes, to me, I knew exactly, but of course, Susan Linker.
Very good. And Mary Alice, you can always stand and be recognized, which we will do accordingly in just a little bit during this meeting. So stick with us. Susan, I hope you're watching. Hank, is there any way that, is she on in Zoom or on in phone?
I do not recognize numbers for her, and she is not on Zoom on a computer.
Okay, can she raise her hand? Can you see her hand if she raised?
There are no hands raised.
Susan, if you're there, raise your hand.
I do have one hand that just went up.
There we go. We'll bring her in. Susan,
Hello, hello.
how are you? I wish it is customary for us to do this at a live council meeting when you can stand before us and we can give you the award in person and we can much better acknowledge your accomplishments. You have meant an amazing amount to the town of Louisville. Your efforts with the Nissen House, your efforts with our gardens. I don't know, folks, if you walk the park horse trails at Jack Warren Park and you happen to see somebody bent over in the hot sun weeding and planting and doing those kinds of things, chances are that's Susan Linker. You have just been an inspiration, certainly to me and to many of our residents when it comes to volunteerism. We also want to thank your husband, Murray. Murray, you've been very tolerant about letting Susan out of the house for as much as you do. Not that she would need your permission to get out. I danced around that one in a hurry. But you have been very gracious to share her with the town. Susan, you mean a lot to us. We are very pleased to extend this award to you because you truly are one of the reasons Louisville is a great place to live. And as soon as we can get you the actual certificate, we will do that.
What can I say? That all of his contributions are greatly exaggerated. That's all I can say. Thank you, Jane, so much. And thank all of you.
Thank you, Susan.
Thank you, Susan.
Thank you so much, Susan, for everything.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, there will be two opportunities for you to speak to the council this evening. Since we do not have the public hearing on the site plan approval, these could pertain to anything that's important to you, anything that comes to your mind that you'd like to share with the council at this particular point. We can do that now for our first public comment session, and then we can do it later at the end of the meeting when we have a wrap up and you can share your comments then. Stacy, will you share with folks how they can participate at this point?
Yes, sir. Let me share my screen real quick for you all. Can everyone see that?
Yes.
Yeah.
And it is on TV6.
Okay. For tonight's meeting, if you want to join us by Zoom, you would go to zoom.us/join, and that will take you to a website where you would put in this webinar ID 869-1622-9267, and that should allow you to join the meeting via Zoom for us tonight. If you're unable to do that, you could call in at 646-558-8656, and then it will prompt you to put in the webinar ID that I mentioned, and then that you could participate by phone with us in the meeting tonight.
And ladies and gentlemen, I know we probably should have brought this up a little earlier in the meeting so you could jot it down. We apologize. We're just really getting used to how we can have meaningful engagement with our residents. So we'll leave this up here just for a second or two. And if we don't get you in at this first public forum, remember we have one at the end of the meeting where you can participate as well. So we'll leave this up just for a second or two. While we leave it up, Mrs. Walker, why don't you move on to our appointments and then we'll come back to the public forum. Ms. Walker.
You're muted.
I forgot I had to unmute myself.
Very good.
The first appointment order that we have is 2020005, and that would be appointing students to Student Leadership Committee. And let me go to my other computer here and take a look at those names. The students that we have coming back are Reed Ballas, Bailey Brummagem, Gabriella I can never get her last name right, Gulman, Serena Horner, Peyton Martin, Ada Shelton, and Rami Shelton. And I have one more student, and that is Aiden Moraes. His sister will be going to college this year, so she will not be coming back, and Miss Sutton will not be coming back. And I do need council to approve those students for this year, if you will, please.
Very good. Ladies and gentlemen, we do have a Student Leadership Committee, which gives the young people in our town an opportunity to learn about Louisville government and the issues that affect their lives and their parents' lives. It's a very active committee. We've had some very outstanding young people come from that committee and are doing great things, not just in Louisville, but wherever they happen to reside. Council members, if there's no questions from Ms. Walker, we'll entertain a motion to appoint those members to the Student Leadership Committee.
Mike.
Yes, sir. Mr. Franklin.
Excuse me, Mayor, rather. You know, I've always been a strong advocate for the Student Leadership Committee, and Joyce didn't name off many names right now. I would encourage anybody that as things go forward with the public schools and the high schools particularly, to search out this resource, join this committee, and as we go forward over the next school year and council year, seek out ways that we can still, through what we're doing tonight, these platforms, support young folks learning about government and all. And I think that's what our Student Leadership Committee. And with that, I'll make a motion to approve these appointments.
Second.
Very good. Mr. Franklin makes the motion. If you have a second, please say your name.
Second.
Second is Dr. Sadler. Any further discussion?
Mike, can Joyce make to Fred's point, can you take a few minutes just to inform the public that may be listening if there's any age requirements and how they go about doing that, just really briefly?
Actually, there aren't age requirements, it's grade requirements. So we take any student from 6th through 12th grade. And this is a little bit different than the student councils in the state. They're all governed by a different type of national organization, and they only take high school students. But the town felt years ago when they put this organization together that you need to start teaching children early about government. If you wait too late, they don't understand it. So we take 6 through 12.
Okay, and they can find out about that information by going to our website and clicking through the various pages, is that correct?
Yes, that's correct. And the charter, their charter is on the website, and that will give them additional information.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any additional questions, comments? Very good. Let's see if I can do this by memory, or actually, Hank, you can go ahead and return us to the screen of council members. Thank you. Mr. Smitherman.
Aye.
Ms. Foster.
Aye.
Ms. Welch.
Aye.
Dr. Sadler.
Aye.
Mr. Franklin.
As always, aye.
Ms. Hunt.
Aye.
Mayor's aye. That makes it unanimous. Welcome to the Student Leadership Committee. We hope it will be a meaningful experience for you. I know we're still doing it with Zoom, but we'll do everything we can to make it rewarding for your time. So, Hank, did we have anybody come in by Zoom or come in by phone for the public forum?
We have 2 hands raised. The first is Ms. Tamer.
Ms. Tamer, if you will state your name, address, and limit your comments to 3 minutes, please.
Let's see, allowed to talk. Here we go.
Hi, I am on 2 devices because one of my devices is not working accurately, so I'm on my phone and my computer. Can you hear me okay?
Lisa, you're breaking up on us just a little bit.
And that's probably going to happen, and I hate that so badly because I have something that I would like to ask and I would like to know. I unfortunately missed the first few minutes of the meeting because I'm in a class and it went over time tonight. I would like to know where we stand on the apartment proposal and what I can do to exercise my voice as a citizen of Louisville to the planning board and to the town council so that we can be heard and we can be seen and that we know that that this is not a done deal. Tell me how I can proceed as a citizen to voice my opinions and my concerns about our sweet town.
Thank you, Ms. Tamer. That's a very good question. Sorry you weren't with us in the very beginning.
Yes, I apologize for the repetition.
That's not a problem. We did have some additional information come in from the petitioner. We have referred that item back to the planning board to consider that once again, so we will not have a public hearing on it tonight. If we have the planning board on August 26th, it will come back before a planning board for another vote on September 9th, and then we'll come to the council on September 10th.
Okay.
On September 10th, we plan to have the actual public hearing that was scheduled for tonight, and that's when you can certainly join in and express your thoughts.
Okay. Can you tell me why that was postponed or delayed?
I tell you, there was just a modification made to the site plan that we felt it needed to go back to the planning board for.
Okay, so has the council met on this previously without public opinion?
No, ma'am, we never meet on issues that haven't come before the public on our agenda for a public hearing.
Okay, so, but you knew in advance that you wanted to delay this before you addressed it with the people that are tuned in tonight? I'm just.
Well, we received the site plan change this morning, and we felt it was prudent to reconsider whether we held the public hearing this evening. Council
Okay.
felt that it was important to go ahead and remand it back to public safety or public
Okay.
planning board.
Well, I hope that we will have an opportunity to have our voices heard, and this is not a done deal. And I do hope that you will be open-minded and allow yourself to have the input of the people around us, because I think it is something that's really shaking up our town. And I haven't seen such activism in Louisville since Liquor by the Drink was voted on years and years ago. And it's exciting, and it's wonderful to see people coming together and voicing their concerns for our community. And thank you for allowing us the opportunity. And I look greatly with anticipation forward to August the 26th, September the 9th, and September the 10th. Thank you
Very
so
good.
much.
Thank you for your comments.
Ms. Tamer, please don't drop off. I need your address. You did not provide that.
Okay, I will be happy to add, to give you my address. It's 309 Tara Wood Drive in Louisville.
Thank you.
309 TARAWOOD Drive in Shelter Lake.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Do we have someone else?
Oh, yes, we have Dan and Susan Fry. I will allow them to speak.
Hello, Dan and Susan. It's unfortunate. We love to see you in person. For those that don't know, Dan and Susan are regular attendees at our council meetings, and we miss seeing their faces.
Hi, we miss you as well. This is Susan Fry, 165 Will Austin Court in Louisville. Can you hear me all right?
Yes, ma'am.
I am just thrilled, and I want to thank the council for recognizing Susan Linker as a very, very important person to Louisville. She does so much. She has more energy than I will ever have or ever did have. And just quickly, the first time we met Susan Linker, we were doing our daily walk, walking around the Nissen House. We were new to the community. And we were looking at the garden at the Nissen House, and who comes around the corner but Susan Linker. And we had a lovely discussion about the garden and the Nissen House, and she really hooked us into the Nissen House. So I'm thankful to you all for recognizing her. She absolutely deserves it.
Thank you, Susan. In fact, you and Dan are both members of our Nissen House Historic Restoration Committee, so thank you for your service to the town.
Thank you, and have a good night.
You too. Anybody else, Mr. Manager?
I have no more hands raised.
Very good. We'll do this once again at the end of the meeting, ladies and gentlemen. So if you've taken that information down, we'll come back to a public forum here in just a little bit. Thank you for your comments. All right, Ms. Walker, we have another appointment to make this evening, Mr. Ronald Morris to our Louisville Public Safety Advisory Committee.
Yes, sir. I believe I sent the information out to council a couple of weeks ago for you to review. And he has asked to be appointed to PSAC. That information has also been sent to our public safety chair.
Very good. Ladies and gentlemen, for those of you who may not be aware, we have a number of boards and committees that are served by volunteers as residents of Louisville. Frankly, we couldn't function without them. They are Parks and Recreation, Beautification, Planning, Board of Adjustments, Public Safety, Recycling, which the new name of the Recycling Committee is what, Ms. Walker?
Not yet been approved.
That's a long name, but maybe we'll have it more relevant to what they do. But they will have a new expanded role in sustainability when we finally do that approval of the new charter. So, I'm sorry, Ms. Foster, do you have something?
And utilities.
And what?
And utilities committee.
And utilities committee. Thank you very much. And so, ladies and gentlemen, if you would like to participate in the working through your town, our committees generally are non-capped with the number of participants, but our boards by statute are. So if you're interested, please contact Mrs. Walker at townclerk@louisvillenc.net or go to our website, How to Volunteer. Ladies and gentlemen, we have an appointment order before us for Mr. Morris to the Public Safety Advisory Committee. Is there a motion?
I'll make the motion.
Ms. Foster makes the motion. It appears Ms. Hunts makes the second. Any discussion? Mr. Smitherman,
Aye.
Ms. Foster,
Aye.
Ms. Welch,
Aye.
Dr. Sadler,
Aye.
Mr. Franklin, Ms. Hunt.
Aye.
Mayor makes it unanimous. Welcome, Mr. Morris, to our wonderful group of volunteers on our Public Safety Advisory Committee. We look forward to your participation. Okay. Hank, I believe we have some unfinished business relating to Vienna Village's request for pedestrian crossing.
Yes, as requested in our meeting last week, we're going to have a discussion now about the Vienna Village request. And then later in the meeting, we do have consideration of the approval of the pedestrian treatments policy that we reviewed last week. Mr. Chris Parker is in attendance as an attendee in case anyone needs to address him or ask questions.
Very good. Give us the background. What do you want us to do?
Well, really, as we discussed it last week, we have a long-running conversation with Vienna Village, and Mr. Parker goes back probably in excess of a year, maybe a year and a half. It started with a request from Vienna Village for a reduction or consideration of a reduction in the speed limit along Yadkinville Highway. And after extensive discussion with the town council, the council's consideration of that was that they were not in favor of reducing the speed limit on Yadkinville Highway. Then council discussion with Vienna Village and Mr. Parker generated discussion then on the applicability of pedestrian signage. He did go before the North Carolina Department of Transportation Division 9 and Mr. Couch with our assistance in trying to engage that discussion with them. That discussion with Division 9 and Mr. Couch did not go very far, and Mr. Couch said that he could not approve that. But long story short, Mr. Couch did indicate that if the town of Louisville would like to entertain the placement of such signage in the DOT right-of-way, we could make a request of the DOT to his office by way of letter or email, and that he would give us approval and put that email in a file for future reference. So I think where we are, and I'm sort of cutting to the end of it, is that the signage that we had talked about was originally talking about a crossing. It was not then recommended that we do a crossing per se, a crosswalk, because of a lack of pedestrian facilities on both sides of Yadkinville Highway. And where we are right now, and Mr. Parker is aware of the conversation, is placing sort of awareness signage for pedestrians out, designating a certain area along in front of Vienna Village on Yadkinville Highway for the motoring public to be aware that they may potentially encounter pedestrians in the right-of-way, where they do have, I guess, residents that live on one side of the road that may have the occasion and need to cross the road to the complex at Vienna Village. And I guess the request is that we've discussed is that we put the signage out in hopes that the motoring public will gain greater awareness of the possibility they may see people in the road and then act appropriately and slow down. Did I get that encapsulated?
You did. You got it encapsulated. Ms. Hunt.
Hey, did we receive requests from them in regards to the signage as we had alluded to? I believe that we got some requests. Is that correct?
Yes, we did, and I did forward it to council.
Okay. All right. So just for review.
I have the email out if we'd like to look at it.
I mean, I think that's important for us to consider, because I mean, my thoughts on it is that we consider to go ahead and grandfather prior to us approving the pedestrian crossing treatments policy this evening, that we kind of grandfather this particular request into and for allowing signage, but that's where I'm at on it. But I'd like for other council to take a look at it.
Very good. Everybody had a chance to read the request from Mr. Parker? Thank you. Let's go back to the big picture, Hank, if you would, please.
Okay.
Here we are. Council members, any additional discussion?
Yeah, I'd like to chime in here.
Mr. Franklin.
In the document that was provided to us tonight, the big document, Anyhow, in the definitions, and again, that's where people get messed up at. It talks about the MUTCD. Rest of the document, I don't see anywhere it's referenced that any type of signage should come out of that document. And please don't make me go look this up again, but I think it's chapter 20.1 or 2 or 5 or whatever.
Right.
But it's the description of the signs that need to go, and that needs to be referenced in the document we're going to consider early, or excuse me, a little later. But at the same time, if we're talking about grandfathering this, whatever motion anybody might make needs to reference the appropriate signage that is allowed to be done on roadways. Okay, I've been arguing all along that this should have been allowed because it is simply warning folks about the potential for people to cross a road 300 foot or 500 foot in front of you. Now, how many motorists will observe that sign and take heed to pedestrians, I can't predict. But at the same time, our community policing officers have been out and measured the speed limits and so forth. Speeding is not the entire issue here. We need to warn folks. And with that being said, when I refer back to this same chapter in the MUTCD, there's other warnings, such as tractors on the road. In extreme cases, snowmobiles on the road, horses, things of that nature. This whole policy that we might address a little later needs to address what is contained as far as warning signs in that area. We're not designating crosswalks and things of that nature. But again, I'm sorry for getting off in a ditch here, but we need to follow the code in whatever we do as a town as we go forward.
Very good. Thank you, Mr. Franklin. I think that's an appropriate comment. And I'm sure that we will do that based upon already published and established signage guidelines.
That is correct.
Okay. Any other discussion? With that, Ms. Hunt, I believe you were ready to make a motion.
Yes, sir. I mean, to Fred's point, do we have to include like specific?
I've got Ms. Hunt, I do have the references that Mr. Franklin was talking about, and I do have that in the emails for Mr. Couch. Certainly in our correspondence with Mr. Couch at the DOT, we will be specific to the MUTCD and specific chapter and signage as referenced is for what we're putting up.
Okay, so Mayor, is a motion to grandfather Vienna Village in prior to, I mean, what kind of motion are you looking for from me exactly?
Yeah, I think the motion might go something like this, that you would make a motion to approve pedestrian warning signs for Yadkinville Road, one on the north, maybe the directions are one on the north side of Vienna Village, one on the south side of Vienna Village, maybe east and west, depending on what your compass says. And those signs should conform to the standard traffic signs as outlined in the MSFFGMQ guideline booklet. Excuse me, Mr. Franklin, it was
MUTCD.
Thank you very much. And that will not be repeated in my lifetime again, so please excuse me for not remembering it right now. So I believe that would be an appropriate motion. Would you like me to make that motion?
Absolutely, Mayor. I think you did a fantastic job.
You like to read out all
Thank
those
you. Very good. Then I'll make that motion.
Thank you. I'll
And I
second.
believe Ms. Hunt will second that motion. Any further discussion?
I just, go ahead, David.
So by grandfathering them in, are they not having to go through the preliminaries to get approved, but do they still go by the guidelines that we had set up in that for the cost of this being deferred to them and not the town?
Thank you, Mr. Smith. I think that's a relevant point.
That is a good point. I had a discussion with Mr. Parker, and I told him that that would be most likely a condition given our prior consideration and discussion of this. Mr. Parker is in agreement that if their request is granted by the council, that the Vienna Village would be responsible for the financial end of this arrangement as well.
Mr. Franklin.
Yeah, I'd like for that to be incorporated into the motion.
Okay, so since I made the original motion, I'll ask myself if I would accept the incorporation of the financial cost of putting those signs in place to be the responsibility of Vina Village. Mrs. Hunt, would you accept that as a appropriate addition to your second?
Yes, sir, I do.
Very good. So we have a revised motion and a acknowledged second. Any further discussion? Ms. Walker?
I was going to ask, could she put the word grandfathered in the motion also? Since that was what she asked up front, but you went on to make the motion, but that word was not in it.
Yeah, I mean, I think by just the fact that we're taking the action tonight probably negates the word to reference a grandfather clause. If we were to be at a point someplace in the future where we wanted to grandfather something, we would, but since we don't have any regulations to grandfather, I think the motion would stand on its own. Please, if you have disagreement with that, council, please let me know. Very good. Any additional discussion? Mr. Smitherman?
Aye.
Ms. Foster?
Aye.
Ms. Welch?
Aye.
Dr. Sadler?
Aye.
Mr. Franklin?
Aye.
Ms. Hunt?
Aye.
Mayor is aye. That's unanimous. Mr. Parker, I believe Mr. Perkins will be getting with you soon to discuss how that will work and the placement of it. But thank you for your persistence in this. I know you've been at it for quite a while. Very good. On to new business. Hank, we have a request for an easement from the Nissen House.
Yes, sir. We have for your consideration Resolution 2020-056, granting a sidewalk easement to the Louisville Historical Society from the Town Hall Annex rear parking lot. Well, I don't know if it's the rear park. Yes, it is the rear parking lot, I'm sorry. To the Nissen House itself.
Motion.
Very good. Ms. Foster makes the motion.
Second.
Ms. Welch makes the second. Any questions for Hank or any comments from council? If not, we'll vote. Mr. Smitherman?
Approve.
Ms. Foster?
Aye.
Ms. Welch?
Aye.
Dr. Sadler?
Aye.
Mr. Franklin?
Aye.
Ms. Hunt?
Aye.
The mayor is aye, and that makes it unanimous as well. Joyce, you have a resolution for us to do the proper disposal of public records.
Yes, sir. I thought I'd give you a little background first so people won't just think we're throwing away stuff, so to speak. But this is something that actually comes from the North Carolina Department of Cultural Resources, and that is a division of the Secretary of State's office. They provide standards for us and all state and municipal agencies on how they are to maintain all of the records that they are that they receive, and that is under State Statute 132-8. We approved our retention policy back in 1999, and we update it as we get updates from the state. So we are in compliance by doing this. Our records retention schedule tells us how long we should maintain certain records and when we should get rid of those records. So I have a computer system that maintains that information for me, and I'm able to pull that list out. And that list was sent to council several weeks ago for review. If you approve this tonight, we'll take that same list and we'll put it up on the website so our residents can see what we're going to be removing, and they can make comment if they think that we should maintain a particular record. And that's sort of the background for what we have to do periodically.
Any questions for Ms. Walker? Ms. Foster?
Yeah, so my questions are just for clarity. So the state legislature requires us, anything that we have in storage, they require us to have and maintain a hard copy. Is that right?
That's correct. A number of folks asked, well, why don't you just make it all on the computer? And the record has to be something that people can actually do something with. If we went to something like a floppy disk, which we no longer have any computers that can access it, then those records would be lost. So paper is what we are relegated to do at this moment.
So the state legislature doesn't recognize anything that gets scanned in or in a digital copy?
You have to actually get permission to do what they call a scan system, but that's still not maintaining the actual papers that I'm talking about. That's usually your background materials in a project, but generally not the type of things like your minutes, your resolutions, or your ordinances.
Okay. So we have a policy, but our policy is pretty much dictated by the legislature. And we pay for storage because we have to put things in hard copy. And so on occasion we purge
that.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you're going to post something on the website that lists, we got 32 pages of all the documents that would be purged.
Yes.
Right. And so if you get feedback in the next 30 days where someone says, you know what, maybe we shouldn't purge this, that would be taken into consideration and pulled out.
I just pull it out.
Okay.
Yes.
I would just invite board members and committees to take a look and see if there's anything that they think might be relevant. I know perhaps the council's looked at it over the past 30, I think you invited us to look at it July 15th. So I just had some concern about making sure in 2020 that our policy was as up to date as possible relative to what we could do given the limitations of the legislature.
Right. And also whenever there are changes made by cultural resources, I have to bring that to council anyway. So if they make a change, I bring it to council for you to approve.
Very good. Any more questions for Ms. Walker? With that, we'll entertain a motion.
So move.
Mr. Franklin makes the motion. Mr. Smitherman makes the second. Any further discussion? Mr. Smitherman?
Aye.
Ms. Foster?
Aye.
Ms. Welch?
Aye.
Dr. Sadler?
Aye.
Franklin?
Aye.
Ms. Hunt?
Aye.
Mayor's aye. That makes it unanimous. Thank you very much. Okay. Rolling right along. Stacy, you have a resolution for us regarding the Northern Piedmont Regional Hazardous Mitigation Plan.
Yes, this, I'm presenting tonight, but it was drafted by our town clerk, Joyce Walker. She's the one that actually did the ordinance. But I talked with you a little bit about this last week. What this is, Louisville is already participating in the multi-jurisdictional regional hazard mitigation plan. There's surrounding counties and municipalities that all participate in this as a joint effort. Every so often this has to be updated. So what this does is it just adopts the updated 2020 Regional Hazard Mitigation Plan for us to continue participation in that effort.
Any questions for Stacy? We'll entertain a motion.
Motion.
Ms. Hunt makes the motion.
Second.
Dr. Sadler makes the second. Any further discussion?
And what hazards are we mitigating?
There's a lot in the document. There's tornadoes, earthquakes, floods, any kind of natural hazards, any type of massive hazards. There's quite a few different hazards that would pertain specifically to our area.
Thank you.
Locust, plague, evil spirits, they're all
Just
covered.
asking for the public. Thank you.
Very good. Very good. Mr. Smitherman?
Aye.
Ms. Foster?
Aye.
Ms. Welch?
Aye.
Dr. Sadler?
Aye.
Mr. Franklin?
Aye.
Ms. Hunt?
Aye.
Mayor's aye. That makes it unanimous. Thank you. Okay. Pam, you have an item for us on the interlocal agreement that we want to enter into with the county on COVID relief funds.
Yes, I have resolution 2020053 authorizing the interlocal agreement with Forsyth County for the grant of coronavirus relief funds. The amount of money that we're going to receive, and this is CARES money from the federal government, the amount of money is $147,591. We are required to also submit a coronavirus relief fund municipality plan, and it's actually attachment A to the interlocal agreement. And in it, it specifies how we plan to spend the money. And the plan that we laid out in Exhibit A in our plan is to use the money to offset the salaries and benefits of our community policing officers, that portion of our contract.
Ms. Willis, that speaks to your question earlier.
Right. I wondered, what kind of input did you have or should we have on how these monies should be used?
Ms. Welch, that really is the only thing that we have spent money on that is eligible for the coronavirus funding.
I see. Thank you, Pam.
Any other questions? If not, we'll entertain a motion.
Move approval of resolution 2020053.
Dr. Sadler makes a motion.
Second.
I believe, was that Ms. Foster or Ms. Welch? Ms. Welch, very good. Any additional discussion? Mr. Smitherman?
Aye.
Ms. Foster? I think you're muted, Ms. Foster.
She's still muted.
Aye.
Ms. Welch?
Aye.
Dr. Sadler?
Aye.
Mr. Franklin?
Aye.
Ms. Hunt?
Aye.
The mayor is aye. Also, that is unanimous. Joyce, you have some updating of our Louisville UDO.
Yes, council had passed 2 items that went into supplements 10 and 11. And I know you've all heard the expression, is it in the books? Believe it or not, we have to, even though we have had these 2 items printed, these supplements, we actually have to do something to place them in the books. So this ordinance will place them in the UDO.
Very good. Any questions for Ms. Walker? We'll entertain a motion.
Motion.
Ms. Foster makes the motion. Mr. Smitherman makes the second. Any additional discussion? Mr. Smitherman?
Aye.
Ms. Foster?
Aye.
Ms. Welch?
Aye.
Dr. Sadler?
Aye.
Mr. Franklin?
Aye.
Ms. Hunt?
Aye.
Mayor's aye. That's unanimous. Thank you very much. Pam, you have a capital project ordinance for us.
Yes, this relates to the new community center. We have ordinance 2020039. This is amending the capital project ordinance for the community center in the amount of $4,094,725. And this is simply just increasing the budget.
Any questions for Ms. Orell? Entertain a motion.
So moved.
Ms. Welch makes the motion.
Aye. Second.
Ms. Hunt makes the second. Any further discussion? Mr. Smitherman?
Aye.
Ms. Foster?
Aye.
Ms. Welch?
Aye.
Dr. Sadler?
Aye.
Mr. Franklin?
Aye.
Ms. Hunt?
Aye.
Mayor's aye. That is unanimous. Thank you. Pam, I believe you have the next one also.
Yes, ordinance 2020040, amending budget ordinance 2020001 in the amount of $997,788 to transfer funds from the municipal buildings and land capital reserve to the community center capital project to fund completion of the new community center.
Very good. Any questions for Pam? Ladies and gentlemen, just a bit of an explanation. Pam, if you will explain that this particular account is one that we've been depositing money into for some time, and we're now actually appropriating it into an active spending account.
You said it right there.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that's what we're doing here, folks. Okay.
I really don't think I could have said it any better. Yes, basically we're just moving money from our reserve, which is basically a savings account, into the capital project so we can start spending it.
Very good. Thank you. Any questions for Ms. O'Reilly? Entertain a motion.
So moved.
Makes a motion.
Second.
Mr. Smitherman makes a second. Any further discussions? Mr. Smitherman?
Aye.
Ms. Foster?
Aye.
Ms. Welch?
Aye.
Dr. Sadler?
Aye.
Mr. Franklin?
Aye.
Ms. Walker? Ms. Walker. And Ms. Hunt?
Aye.
You don't get to vote, Ms. Walker. I'm sorry, even though you'd like to.
You should.
And the mayor is aye also. That makes that unanimous. Pam, I think you have the next one.
And lastly, we have ordinance 2020041, amending budget ordinance 2020001 in the amount of $1,096,937. This is to transfer funds from the general fund to the community center capital project to fund the completion of the new community center. So this is the anticipated amount that we'll need to pull from the general fund in order to complete the project.
Very good. Any questions for Ms. Earl?
Yeah, I've got a question. Pam, would you repeat that number again? Because the agenda I'm working off has just X's there. So the figure one more time.
It's 1,096,937.
So as the bids was called out, it's 1,096,937, correct?
Correct. Yes.
Thank you. All right.
Any additional questions? We'll entertain a motion.
Move approval.
Second.
Sadler makes the motion. Mr. Franklin makes the second. Any further discussion? Mr. Smitherman?
I approve.
Ms. Foster?
Aye.
Ms. Welch?
Aye.
Dr. Sadler?
Aye.
Mr. Franklin?
Aye.
Ms. Hunt?
Aye.
That mayor is aye. That makes it unanimous. Hank, you have a construction contract for us to approve.
Yes, we have Resolution 2020054 awarding a construction contract to Fairwood Construction LLC of Charlotte, North Carolina for construction of the new community center in an amount of $3,688,218. I'm going to take a moment and share with council how this basically is going to work. I've got here printed out the contract document that incorporates by reference the specifications and the plans that went into the bidding as well for the community center. And now I'm going to share a portion of this contract and walk you through a bit of an explanation as to how things will work. Okay, this is the first contract, and this is actually, I think, what gets signed. You're going to see there in Article 4 before you, the contract sum corresponds with the numbers that you've heard Ms. Orrell talk about for the project itself and the bid. Next, on the alternates, you're going to see that we did incorporate alternates 1, 2, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 9. Not incorporated was alternate 3 and alternate 8. And so the 3 was the site lighting, 8 was the generator. Moving forward a little bit is that how this is going to work is that if you see in 4.3, we have allowance number 1, that is construction contingency. That is intended to cover things that are incidental and come up that are unavoidable as we go through the project that may end up costing more money to the project itself. But it is worth saying is that it is worth noting that that $183,000 is incorporated into the grand total that has been approved for this contract at $3.68 million. I'm sorry, does somebody have a question? Okay, so if this construction contingency is underspent and we don't use $183,000, that will lower that amount of money of the overall cost of the project by the sum of money that is not spent out of the contingency. You'll see a little bit allowances 2 through 9. Those are tied to unit pricing that you're going to see just below that in 4.4. For instance, unit pricing number 1 is additional excavation on a cost per yard of that nature. So if you go back up to allowance number 2, we have a certain quantity pricing of $6,500 based on additional excavation. That's an allowance. So should they, let's say it's 100 cubic yards. If they do not use that 100 cubic yards and they use 50 cubic yards, then the price of this allowance will not be spent, and it'll end up being a credit towards the project or savings for the project. If that allowance gets exceeded and it's not 100 cubic yards, it's 1,200 cubic yards or some manner like that, then at that point, the additional overrun will come out of that $183,000 as well. So I hope I am explaining that correctly. For these allowances and in this contingency, it is all built into the current cost of the project. And as long as none of these allowances roll over and the contingency doesn't get expended, we won't have any more additional costs that the town is prepared for than you've seen this evening and has been discussed with you. If we do have something that changes the scope of the project, we've added something to the project that was not incorporated or anticipated into the bidding when we talked about it, we would of course come back with council and talk about that and whether or not council wants to engage in that. I'm not anticipating that to happen, but the contingency, like I said, is to take care of unforeseen changes to the contract and also changes to the allowances which exceed these dollar figures. So as we move forward, we're going to go forward with this project, and these changes and these quantities and these incidental work will be taken care of, and it'll be seamless. And that's the best and most efficient way to move forward with the project, to make sure that it does not get encumbered with additional time unnecessarily. Everybody with me on that one? Anyone have any questions?
Yes, on the contingency money, what triggers the spending of that money?
It's like I said before, some of these allowances get exceeded that you see in 4.3. If that, like my example was 100 cubic yards of excavation, as long as it's 100 cubic yards or less, there would be no contingency that would be employed into the to utilize for it. And while we have accounted for as much as $183,000 in change orders per se for unforeseen work that comes up during the project, if that work doesn't materialize and that overrun of these allowances doesn't happen, we will not use that contingency.
Right.
So it'll end up being a cost savings to the project.
Okay, thanks.
Sure.
Hank, anything else?
No, that's it. I wanted to just run through the specifics of it. And I believe we've got the resolution that if you pass it, we'll approve this contract in all its parts that do incorporate all addendums and specifications and plans that were put in through the bidding documents.
Very good. What's our time frame as specified in the contract?
What we'll end up doing is we will issue a notice to proceed at some point in February. There will be a 365-day window from that notice to proceed in which the contractor does need to get this project built. There's allowances for liquidated damages if necessary.
Hank, you said in February?
I'm sorry, I misspoke. September.
September, very good. Okay, so it's 365 days from when we issue the notice to proceed in September.
That's correct.
Very good. Okay, thank you. Any questions for Hank? It's a big step, folks. I'm excited. We'll entertain a motion.
Motion to approve resolution 2020054.
And I'll definitely second this one. We've been planning this for years.
Dr. Sadler makes the motion. Mr. Franklin understates his second. Any further discussion? Hank, if you'll take us back to the full screen, please.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Mr. Smitherman.
Approved.
Ms. Foster.
Aye.
Ms. Welch.
Aye.
Dr. Sadler.
Aye.
Mr. Franklin.
Absolutely aye.
Ms. Hunt.
Aye.
The mayor also is an aye, and that makes us unanimous. And folks, we're off and running. This is exciting. All righty, Hank, we have some materials testing to be done.
Yes, we have consideration of resolution 2020055. That will award a contract to Terracon of Greensboro an amount of $23,920 to conduct materials testing and special inspections as required. And that's Terracon is our contractor. And as I talked about last week, basically that is just oversight and quality control for the construction as it moves through its processes.
Any questions for Hank? Entertain a motion.
Motion to approve.
Mr. Smith makes the motion. Ms. Foster makes the second. Any additional discussion? Mr. Smithman.
Aye.
Ms. Foster.
Aye.
Ms. Welch.
Aye.
Dr. Sadler.
Aye.
Mr. Franklin.
Aye.
Ms. Hunt.
Aye.
Mayor's aye. That is unanimous. Excuse me for a moment if I get a little choked up on this because this is Franklin alluded to momentarily or a moment ago, this has been a long time in the works. We've had so much community involvement in the planning, design, and moving this project forward. It was envisioned by the council to be a wonderful addition to town facilities that would bring people together. I think all of you have heard me say on many occasions that you build community, and in order to build community, you got to have places for the community to get together, such as what we've done with Shalford Square, what we've done with Jack Warren Park. The community center is going to be one of those ones which, again, continues to allow us for an opportunity for our community to come together, to get to know each other, and also to maintain that sense of what makes Louisville a special place. So with that, I would like council members to propose a groundbreaking for September 12th, next month, 2020, where we will officially break ground on this, and we'll have groundbreaking plans. Upon approval of this, we'll have groundbreaking plans out to everybody here shortly. Is there a second?
Second.
Very good. Ms. Hunt makes a second. Any further discussion? Mr. Smitherman?
Aye.
Ms. Foster?
Aye.
Ms. Welch?
Aye.
Dr. Sadler?
Aye.
Mr. Franklin?
Aye.
Ms. Hunt?
Aye.
The mayor is also aye. There's going to be some logistical issues that we're going to have on this, but I think we're going to work with the contractor, Fairwood, to come up with what I think is going to be a very, very unique groundbreaking, and one where a number of our residents will be able to participate. Moving on, which is the second part of this. For those of you who may not be aware, several years ago, the town received a very generous donation of land by Mary Alice Warren in the name of her husband, Jack Warren. That land, approximately 15 acres, went on to become Jack Warren Park. When we began talking about a community center, we had a number of locations in mind, but truly in the back of our minds, there was only one place where this community center could go, and it would be most appropriate. Mary Alice Warren came forward and said, you know, I've got another 15 acres that's adjacent to Jack Warren Park. Would you like that for the community center? We certainly didn't hesitate, we certainly didn't hesitate to accept that offer. And it's rare that you have 30 acres of absolute pristine prime real estate in the center of any community that's donated to the town. So council members, what I would like to ask for your approval tonight is that we officially name our new community center the Mary Alice Warren Community Center. And that would be a motion.
Second.
Dr. Sadler makes the second. Any further discussion?
I'd like to say thank you to Mary Alice Warren. Talk about contributing to her community. It's a joy to know this woman and to express immense gratitude.
Any other comments, any other discussions?
I would like to comment, Mayor. I think I may be, not really from an age requirement standpoint, but I just want to say thank you to Ms. Warren as well. It's going to be something that will be impacting generations for years to come, my children and then my children's children. So probably from the youngest member of council, as we sit here, thank you very much on behalf of my family and future generations.
Anyone else? Mr. Franklin.
Yeah, I'd just like to say again, thank you, Mary Alice. You've been a biggest benefactor to our town as we, again, as Mike has described, assembling or about to assemble one of the nicest properties in a downtown area, if you will, or adjacent to downtown. And I just remember the last time I saw you on election day when you came to the polls at Shiloh, and one of the first things you said is that you remember my mama. And I want you to, if you're watching in, I hope you receive that. And I appreciate that.
Well, I will guarantee you she is watching in. At 99 years old, I talked to her this afternoon. She said, is anything interesting happening at the council meeting tonight? And I said, no, not much, Mary Alice. But I encourage you, if you would, to please tune in. So Mary Alice, I know you're watching. And once again, please know from our council, what a special person you are and what our appreciation is extended to you. With that, Mr. Smithman,
I approve.
Ms. Foster,
Appreciatingly approve.
Ms. Welch,
Absolutely approve.
Dr. Sadler,
Yes, with a debt of gratitude from the citizens of Louisville for your immense generosity.
Mr. Franklin,
Absolutely. Thank you.
Ms. Hunt,
Yes.
Mayor is aye. That makes it unanimous. Now to something more exciting, the pedestrian crossing treatment policy. Hank?
Okay.
Folks, do we want to take about 5 minutes here?
Sure.
Just to do a quick stretch. Ladies and gentlemen, we will take about 5 minutes here to do a stretch. We'll be back to continue on with our agenda. We do have a number of items to still talk about this evening. Hopefully you'll stay with us, and we'll be back shortly.
Did y'all just hear that at town hall?
I did.
Yes.
Sound like fireworks or something.
Sound like something exploded.
I know, almost.
Can we have an explosion at the kickoff for the community center, like maybe dynamite or something?
We'll let you light it there, David.
You're always thinking. Very good. Okay, while we're waiting for a couple of folks to come back, ladies and gentlemen, you may notice that we move through our agenda pretty quickly with not a lot of discussion. That's because every Thursday prior to our council meeting, we have extensive briefings, extensive discussions with our staff about the items that are going to come before us that week. So trust me, this is not the first time we've seen these items. We've had a considerable amount of time to digest and ask questions so that we are prepared to vote on them on our actual council briefing night. Okay, if everybody's back, Hank, ready to go.
All right. Okay, next under G, pedestrian crossing treatments policy, we have two items. The first is resolution 2020058. This is approving the pedestrian crossing treatments policy. This is a policy that we did brief last week, as the mayor talked about, and then it was sent out to council on Friday, I believe, of last week, so that you could have it and be able to provide me any questions you may have.
As Mr. Franklin noted, we will include in this guide a more detailed list of specifications for signage from the MCU TM.
Yeah, we certainly can do that, but the basics of it is that no sign that is not covered within the MUTCD by definition or specification would be allowed by the NCDOT in the right of way.
Very good.
So it's kind of a given that it's going to be in that document and that specification, and it'll match up to something that's allowed.
Very good. Yes, Mr. Franklin.
Yeah, again, I want to see that in this document specifically, because we're going to get into, duck crossing, this, that, and the other. Okay. So let's define it down specifically to the types of signs that are appropriate. I know this particular ordinance or policy that is before us tonight is dealing with pedestrians. I think that overall, we've kicked this can down the road for quite some time over one topic, and that's pedestrians. But there are other issues that are out there. In the last year, we've dealt with a deaf child and signage. And I'm not sure exactly how the council, the previous council come down as far as votes or anything like that. But I'm proud to say that I happened to be riding through that particular neighborhood in the last month, and there is a sign up there. I'm not sure how that sign got up there, because I don't remember saying, okay, put a sign up there. So this is a bigger issue than just this. We've already grandfathered take that word out. We agreed earlier. We've already approved the request from the Vienna Village on the Actonville Highway. With that being said, yes, I somewhat agree. I mean, I agree with this policy. I'm just not sure that we're going to deal with each and every one. Again, if somebody comes up and says, I get run over every time I'm on the road with a tractor moving from one driveway to another, trying to move round bales and feed cows, and people are running up and down the road 55 miles an hour in a 45-mile-an-hour zone. The DOT has previously said 10 years ago, no, and traffic increases because of development in the area. What are we going to do then?
My thoughts, Mr. Franklin, is that we would just be dealing with pedestrian-oriented requests.
At this time, I recognize that,
That's
but
what this policy deals with.
well, the next person comes up with a different issue. That's my whole point. I will support going ahead and approving this ordinance tonight for the merits of this particular ordinance. But at the same time, this is going to be a never-ending issue unless it's addressed as a whole, and how we're going to address it as a whole as various requests comes in.
Point well taken, Mr. Franklin. Mr. Manager, I think probably we can move forward with this policy tonight, but maybe I'm not sure if it's public safety. I'm not sure who, I guess it would be public safety. Make them aware that they should maybe consider incorporating other types of requests, or how other types of requests would be handled with a policy, as Mr. Franklin has suggested.
So for clarity's sake for me, are we talking about expanding a policy beyond pedestrian-oriented business or requests?
I will say that, again, I'll give you an example, okay, that could be applied in various different places. There's still tractors and there's, cars, same as bicycles and cars. We need to have do we want to each time address the same or address a particular request, or do we want to address it more encompassing that is allowed under the MUTCD?
It's a great question for public safety.
Thank you. And with that, have we got a motion for this one right yet?
Not yet.
I'll go ahead.
You have a question?
Yes, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Ms. Hunt, you have a question?
Yeah, so I just have a general question, and thank you, Councilmember Franklin, for bringing this kind of to the forefront regarding the different modalities or different treatments or ways that we could do this, I guess. So I guess it's to you, Hank. Would this just be kind of like one of the, if we approve this evening, or if we move forward, will this just be part of and over a bigger rules and regulations? Or, I'm having a hard time kind of understanding.
I don't know that I follow your question.
I don't know if I know my question, quite frankly, right now either. So
yeah,
give me just a moment.
This policy is specific to pedestrian crossings.
Okay, I got
that's
that.
all it deals with. And it's
Okay.
limited to unsignalized pedestrian crossings. If somebody wants a pedestrian crossing and their needs do not fit into an unsignalized pedestrian crossings, then we're not dealing with it.
And Fred, that's where you're making the comment that we need to start going broader in kind of encompassing other areas. Is that correct?
Well, I'll just say it this way. I am on a particular road in the wintertime quite frequently with a tractor that people like to speed upon that has a 45-mile-an-hour speed limit. I requested DOT many years ago to put one of them little signs out with a dude on a tractor, And lots of times nowadays, as I try to do what I'm trying to do, I always try to wave at people with 5 fingers sticking in the air. Sometimes I have to wave with 1, okay? And I'm just saying it's a bigger issue overall when you go to warning signs. And we're talking about warning signs. I'm not talking about designating crosswalks, and that's not what this policy does. I'm just saying as we go forward, there's going to be other requests, horses. There are horse stables in our town that potentially people ride across a road and things of that nature. It needs to be looked at by our Public Safety Committee more in depth. All these warning signs are contained in one chapter in the MUTCD. All right. Don't make me look it up.
That clarifies.
But anyhow, focus on that and what can be done to warn motorists of not impending hazards in front of them, but what could be there in front of them, I guess is the way to say it. And there's proper terminology for that. But again, this particular ordinance has been drafted addressing this one thing, which is pedestrian crossings of this nature. I'm in agreement with. And I'm willing and you know, to make a motion to approve this tonight, this particular ordinance. Or, excuse me, resolution.
Thank you. That clarifies for me. Thanks, guys.
Mr. Manager, could maybe if you could pass on this request from Mr. Franklin to Public Safety Advisory Committee and ask for their counsel and direction.
Yeah, is that the consensus of the council?
Is that the consensus of the council? I think I see heads nodding, yes, nodding, thumbs up, good.
Okay, we will.
Thank you. Okay, so Mr. Franklin, if you're ready to make the motion, we're there.
I think I've already done it, but I'll do it again. Thank you for resolution, whatever.
For pedestrian crossing treatment
58.
policy.
Yeah, it ends in 58.
Mr. Franklin makes the motion.
Second.
I'm sorry, I missed who the second was.
Foster.
Ms. Foster, thank you very much. Any further discussion? Ms. Foster,
Aye.
Mr. Smitherman,
Aye.
Mr. Franklin,
Aye.
Ms. Hunt,
Aye.
Ms. Welch,
Aye.
Dr. Sadler,
Aye.
Mayor's aye. That makes it unanimous. Okay, Hank, I guess we have to have an ordinance. Are you doing this one or is Joyce doing this one?
This is going to be Joyce.
Okay, Ms. Walker?
You're muted.
Okay. As I had advised last week, if you had passed this, which you did, I needed to just place a line in the fee schedule referencing this particular policy. There is no dollar amount. And the reason that there is no dollar amount is because each situation would have to be individually looked at and determine how many signs that needed to be placed, etc. So it's just a reference saying to go back to the policy and the information that's in the policy and that they would be charged accordingly.
Any questions, Ms. Walker? Entertain a motion.
So moved.
Ms. Welch makes the motion.
Second.
Ms. Hunt makes the second. Any additional discussion? Ms. Foster,
Aye.
Mr. Smitherman,
Aye.
Mr. Franklin,
Aye.
Ms. Hunt,
Aye.
Ms. Welch,
Aye.
Dr. Sadler,
Aye.
Mayor's aye. That's unanimous. Ladies and gentlemen, as we mentioned before, we had scheduled a public hearing for this evening on the site plan for what we're identifying as L096, which is the Solomon Development petition. We have postponed that. We remanded because of changes, additions to the site plan, modifications to the site plan. We remanded that back to the planning board. They will take a look at it on August 26th. They will then vote on it with their recommendation on September 9. It'll come before the council on September 10. So our public hearing on this will be on September 10 with a subsequent vote on September 14. Is that correct? September 14. Okay, thank you. Hank, you want to, actually, Stacy, Hank gives us a update on our approvals at our last briefing. How about flashing up our instruction sign should people want to participate in the public forum, which is coming up shortly?
Okay, go ahead, Stacy.
Okay. Hank, what did we approve at our briefing?
Okay. Seeing if we didn't skip something. We do have, let me mention events at Shallowford Square in September that we will be, and town
Hank,
holidays.
Let me halt you. We did skip something. My apologies. You have a personnel announcement that we referenced earlier.
Yep. So we only have one thing to talk about in September. Town offices are going to be closed on Monday the 7th in honor of the Labor Day holiday. And as the mayor did talk about at the beginning of the meeting and just now, can we take this down for one moment? All right. So where is he here? Okay. Since December, we had Public Works Director George Hauser, and he had been out of work on medical leave. And at that point, I appointed Ryan Moser as acting Public Works Director in the absence or while Public Works Director George Hauser was out. Mr. Ryan Moser has been performing in that fashion now up until this week. Mr. Hauser subsequently has retired from service with the town. And as considering our options for moving forward, I had a talk with Ryan, and basically I just cannot say enough about his growth within the position. He was appointed acting Public Works Director with not a lot of experience in dealing with this, and I will say that he has performed admirably and shown a lot of growth in his understanding about the position. As of Monday, I have appointed Mr. Moser not as acting Public Works Director, but he is now our Public Works Director. So I'd like to congratulate him publicly for council and those in attendance watching this meeting.
Well deserved.
Yeah.
Thumbs up. Lots of applause, Ryan.
Congratulations.
Thank you. I appreciate this opportunity and look forward to its challenges.
And there will be challenges. Congratulations, Ryan. We expect great things of you. We're very proud of you.
Thank you.
Okay, so let's go back to our contact screen, and Hank, you can bring us up the items that we approved at our briefing.
Yes, approvals at the briefing. We went through, I guess it was 9 options on the community center, as we talked about earlier in the contract, and did narrow those down, eliminating 2 of those options. But that was decided at our briefing last week. And then we moved forward and approved ordinance 2020-028 amended, and this is zoning docket L95 Longwood Village, adding the meets and bounds to the ordinance legal description as requested by Winston-Salem Planning Department. And that is the entirety of what was done last week.
Very good. So ladies and gentlemen, we are now coming up for a second opportunity should you wish to address the council on anything that might be of interest to you. This is a public comment period. It's our opportunity to listen to you. Hank, do we have anybody who's indicated they wish to speak?
I see no hands raised. If anyone would like to, please raise your hand.
No hands.
No hands.
Very good. We'll close the public comment session. Ladies and gentlemen, always, should you wish to provide written comments, you can do so and send them to townclerk@louisvillenc.net, townclerk@louisvillenc.net. Stace, we go back to the big screen with everybody. Thank you. Council members, any comments before we adjourn this evening? Mr. Franklin.
I want to make sure I want to make sure I was not muted. Well, I'd like to make the formal motion, if you will, that we cancel our August the 17th meeting now that we've made it through this evening with no thunderstorms that knocked anybody offline.
Very good. I think that's appropriate. Is there a second to Mr. Franklin's motion?
I'll second.
It's Ms. Foster, I believe.
Yes.
Made the second.
Mhm.
Any discussion? Ms. Foster.
Aye.
Mr. Smitherman.
Aye.
Mr. Franklin.
Aye.
Ms. Hunt.
Aye.
Ms. Welch.
Aye.
Dr. Sadler.
Aye.
Mayor's aye. That's unanimous. We no longer have a meeting next Monday.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, ma'am.
I had one question for Council, Hank, Stacy, Bo. Is there a mechanism by which we could communicate what we summarized are the next steps for this, the project, the Solomon project? You know, obviously it'll show up in the minutes, but the minutes won't be out for a while. And the public looks at Facebook, looks at our website. Is there a mechanism by which that could be summarized for community consumption?
We probably could do some slides for 6, just indicating that the issue has been postponed, and possibly do something short and concise on Facebook and the website.
I would appreciate that. I don't know how the rest of the council feels, but that would be great for me.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you. Anyone else? If not, we'll entertain a motion to adjourn this evening.
Motion to adjourn.
Mr. Smitherman makes a motion.
Second.
Second.
Ms. Foster was the first in for the second. Any additional discussion?
Go, Gene Reed.
Council members, thank you very much for your attention, your dedication. Certainly, this is an important night for us, and I feel very fortunate to be serving with a council like this who recognizes the as Mr. Franklin would put it, the monumental contribution that the community center is going to make to our community.
Absolutely.
With that, Ms. Foster.
Aye.
Mr. Smitherman.
Congratulations, Ryan. Good night.
Ms. Welch.
Aye. Good night.
Ms. Hunt.
Aye.
Mr. Franklin.
Good night, everyone.
Dr. Sadler.
Bye.
Mayor is aye. Good night, everybody. Thank you for joining us. We'll see you in a month.
Thank you.